So I think it's pretty safe to say that a lot of people have very strong opinions about the new Snow White movie, myself included. I just saw it a few days ago, and I honestly think it's the most dull, most unoriginal, the most unimaginative, no magic, no charm, just straight corporate slop kind of live action remake we've had in a minute. Like, I really think it's that dull. Like, it's not even that it's horrifically bad, it's just horrifically dull in every sense of the word. And I've been trying to wonder, like, where did they go wrong? What would I have done differently if I was in charge of Snow White? And so that's actually what prompted this video today. I'm going to go over all of my problems that I have with the Snow White movie, and then I'm going to tell you if I was in charge of making this live action Snow White movie, what I would have done instead. That's what we're going to go over today. I'm going to try to reimagine this movie for you guys, and I have lots of lovely images for you as well. So please make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and let's get on to the video. Up next. First off, before we can even start talking about any of the plot changes, we have to talk about the setting. Because one of my biggest gripes in the movie is that the world just felt small. You could tell they filmed on a soundstage, or many sound stages. The world felt very small, very low budget even at times, even though I know the budget is actually astronomical. So instead, I would have filmed on location on big sprawling hills in a giant forest somewhere. I would have had big sweeping shots of the surrounding forest and all the landscaping and everything. Think The Princess Bride and how that world felt very real, and how we got lots of sweeping landscape shots of the characters rolling around on the hills and the grass. I would have had the same feel for Snow White, so it just felt more like a real, grounded movie, but also with better visuals. The second thing I would have changed would be to alter how they tried to modernize Snow White as a character. In the Disney live action version, they tried to turn her into this sort of wannabe girl boss, just wants to rule after her kingdom and do what's right by everyone. And it's just really dull and makes her a very uninteresting character, because not only is she just nice, like that's her only defining characteristic, but she's also just one of the million Snow White Disney heroines lately that wants power and to take control and fight against the rebellion. I mean, we just had Wish where Asha wanted the same thing. So I thought, instead of going that direction with the character, what if we decided to make her more like the original? The original Snow White is very dainty, very feminine, very high-voiced, very girly.
And if you hear it echoing, your wish will soon come true.
What if we made the modern version of that like a cross between Giselle from Enchanted and Glinda from Wicked? So she has this innocent naivete of Giselle, but with the operatic high voice tones of Glinda. I believe if we did that, we would have a much more interesting character, where her flaw is that she's very naive, very childish, maybe she needs to grow up a bit. But also, what if she's also very lonely? What if she's alone at this castle all the time and she's wishing and wanting for connection? So we can still have songs like I Wish and Someday My Prince Will Come. So instead of those songs just being about her wishing and wanting for a romance, she's wishing and wanting for connection. And so we keep those original classic songs while still updating and modernizing the context around them, and then making Snow White herself a more interesting character. I just think that would have served the movie a lot better, and I think little girls would have latched on to that version of that character more. Instead, they kind of made Rachel Zegler almost homely, in the sense that they gave her like really kind of dowdy dress at first. Even her Snow White dress isn't that exciting. And of course, we can't forget the Lord Farquaad hairstyle. I mean, they really did not make her look her best. I would have made Snow White look like a real fairy tale princess. Even if it felt unrealistic, that's okay. This is a fairy tale. I would have really given her like a full gorgeous gown. Think, again, Glinda's gown from Wicked. Very sparkly, very girly, very big, very campy, but also very feminine. That's what I would have done with her costumes. And her hair, by the way. I think the social media post that Rachel Zegler posted with her hair, like in a much more bouncy, full way than what she has in the movie, is the way to go. I would have had her hair exactly like that. I also would have given her a real love story and a real prince. In the Disney live action version, they turned the prince into some bandit she meets in the middle of the woods. They don't really have much chemistry, and the love story is downplayed quite a bit. In my version of the movie, I would have done it more like the original, where the prince is actually a prince, and they do meet at the very beginning of the story before Snow White even goes into the woods with the huntsman. I would have had that early in the story. Maybe after she just sang I Wish, after reflecting on how lonely she's been in the castle and how she's been waiting for so someone, a friend, a connection, anyone, and then the prince comes along. She's like, oh wow, I finally might have met someone. And so she finally has hope just before the evil queen sends her off into the woods to be killed. And so maybe we even have a scene where the prince sees Snow White going off into the woods, and so he knows that she's in danger. And so that's why he's going after her. He's trying to save her, he's trying to protect her. So that keeps the prince an active character in the movie and also the romance alive, as Snow White is in the dwarves' cottage later on, wishing for her prince to come and find her. And so that's why we get the Someday My Prince Will Come song. I think that would make the romance a lot more active to the story, and I think that would also make the prince a more interesting character. I think it would make the Snow White as a character more relatable and also more vulnerable, as she would be very lonely and wishing for that someone, that connection. And I think that would give her that flaw that would make her character more interesting than the Rachel Zegler version, who was just nice and just needed everyone else to realize how nice she was. And I just felt like that was very uninteresting. Something else I would have changed, I would have had the evil queen be much more maniacal, much more villainous. Obviously, we're dealing with Gal Gadot here, so maybe her acting range is limited, but I would have had her much more campy in her villainy. I would have had her much more obsessed with beauty. Like, I would have had like a full beauty routine that we see her do and like be obsessed with. I'm talking about like doing weird things like rubbing your face with banana peels. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about like a full narcissistic beauty freak, so that when the mirror tells her, actually, Snow White's the fairest of them all, she just goes berserk. And so everything she does seems like it's becoming more and more unhinged. So she becomes a more like evil, interesting villain than just sort of this blah villain that Gal Gadot went with. Again, that might have just been down to her acting capabilities, but I also even felt like the villain in the live action version was just very dull. So that's how I would make the evil queen a lot more interesting. And finally, I would have just added more whimsy and charm to this story. I would have given the dwarves just a lot more to do. In the original film, the dwarves are a huge part of the story. In fact, whole scenes are just about hijinks between the dwarves. I mean, do you guys remember the part of where they're trying to sneak upstairs to find Snow White asleep before they even find out who it is? That takes up like a good 10 minutes of the movie of just their hijinks trying to figure out who's going to go upstairs first. Oh, it's Dopey. Oh, he gets so scared he makes everyone fall down the stairs. Like, we needed more whimsy like that, more charm to the movie where they could have funny banter, funny slapstick comedy, because a lot of the dwarves in the original have a lot of slapstick comedy. I would have included more of that here. In fact, I would have had real life action little people play these roles and not CGI monstrosities. I would have just had real humans play these roles and have very dramatic personalities that made each one of them clear who they were. Like, I would have had Sneezy sneezing all the time. I would have had Dopey have his little dopey walk. Like, I would have just dramatized their personalities and just something so it'd feel real, so it just wasn't all CGI based. I think that would have gone a long way in adding more magic and charm to this movie. So yes, overall, I just thought that this story, this new movie, needed more charm, more magic, more life, more color, more romance. And these are some of the changes that I would have made if I was making this movie. If Disney is going to continue making these live action remakes, and they are because they make so much money, usually, not this one, but usually they make money, then I really hope they return to their roots and remember that they're supposed to be magic making. These movies are supposed to invoke childlike wonder, and they're just not doing that anymore because they're just so by the books. You can tell they're made by committee. They're often dull in color. They over rely on CGI. I would have changed all of these things. I think these have become habits at Disney that I think they need to move past and move beyond, because they're no longer serving these movies or stories. But what do you guys think? Do you like my changes? Do you like this new movie that I would have created instead? Please let me know in the comments. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.